Good morning. My name is Kim Noble, and I am today's worship associate. Welcome to the Sunday service for May 30th, 2021, from First Unitarian Church of Providence, where we love beyond belief. Today's service will be a bit different from many of our recent services. While we are broadcasting live, we are doing so remotely, so we can welcome Matthew Partiger Villarreal to our online pulpit. Matthew is a Master's of Divinity graduate from Bright Divinity School with a concentration in sexual and gender justice. He is a candidate for ministry with the UUA and the incoming intern minister at First Unitarian Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Matthew also served as a chaplain at Baylor All Saints Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. He is currently living in Albuquerque with his husband, Gabriel, and their cat, Juliet. We are pleased to welcome him to our congregation today.
Good morning. I'm Sadie Swayze.
And I'm Cynthia Rosengard, and we will light the chalice for this morning's worship service. Please join us in our unison chalice lighting. This light burns in our hearts, and it lights our path towards harmony, justice, and hope for all.
Deeper than DNA, more fundamental than molecules or quarks at our living core, we are wholeness and transfiguring love. We often forget that power, becoming lonely or resentful, comparing ourselves to others, acting out of our fears rather than our living our glory. Occasionally, we rouse from our trance to remember our wholeness. For a time, we embody unsentimental love. We make efforts to wake others and to remain fully present ourselves. Our lives and our time here together are made sacred by our striving. For the rest of our time together and for the rest of our lives, may we be more aware of the spirit of life evolving through and among us. So may we be.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need those friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we share with friends, they will linger on and on. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow. We have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We
Today's reading, And How Are the Children, is by Reverend Patrick T. O'Neill. Among the most accomplished and fabled tribes of Africa, no tribe was considered to have warriors more fearsome or more intelligent than the mighty Maasai. It is perhaps surprising, then, to learn the traditional greeting that passed between Maasai warriors, Kasarian and Jira. One would always say to another, it means, and how are the children? It is still the traditional greeting among the Maasai, acknowledging the high value that the Maasai always place on their children's well-being. Even warriors with no children of their own would always give the traditional answer. All the children are well. Meaning, of course, that peace and safety prevail, that the priorities of protecting the young, the powerless, are in place, that Maasai society has not forgotten its reason for being, its proper functions and responsibilities. All the children are well means that life is good. It means that the daily struggles for existence do not preclude proper caring for their young. I wonder how it might affect our consciousness of our own children's welfare if in our culture we took to greeting each other with this daily question. And how are the children? I wonder if we heard that question and passed it along to each other a dozen times a day, if it would begin to make a difference in the reality of how children are thought of or cared about in our country. I wonder if every adult among us, parent and non-parent alike, felt an equal weight for the daily care and protection of all the children in our community, in our town, in our state, in our country. I wonder if we could truly say without any hesitation, the children are well. Yes, all the children are well. What would it be like if the minister began every worship service by answering the question, and how are the children? If every town leader had to answer the question at the beginning of every meeting, and how are the children? Are they well? Wouldn't it be interesting to hear their answers? What would it be like? I wonder. One of the ways First U transforms love into action is by the sharing of the joys and sorrows that connect us. This morning, I share a candle of joy. Emily Bruce will be ordained into the UU ministry on June 5th. Please see the church email for information. I light a candle for gratitude that my brother-in-law, John, went home Friday after 4 weeks in the hospital. Please send gentle thoughts and prayers for an easy transition. This is from Suzanne Craig. Tom Getz offers a prayer for Kelly. Please let her know that Team First U is here for her, and may it be through our collective prayers and positive thoughts that she will get better. My friends, in times of triumph and tragedy, we can rest in the deep knowing that we have each other in this beloved community to share our joy and sorrows. Indeed, it makes all the difference. Amen.
Gracious One, keep watch on the innovators, the trailblazers, the takers of risk. Invite us to be persons of vision and integrity. Help us to remember the mystery, from which possibility is born. Lead us to honor the sacred space where ministries, idealists, and realists meet. Encourage us to imagine more than just what is. Fill our hearts in times of discouragement. Keep our eyes on the long now. Through our efforts, let us know the fruits of connection and a deeper faith. I think that you should take over the youth group. This was the suggestion that was presented to me by the senior minister while I was serving as the intern minister at the Welcome Table Christian Church while I was completing my year of supervised ministry in seminary. While my official response to the suggestion was that I would be happy to take over leading the youth group, I am sure that the initial displeasure could clearly be read across my face. In the great hierarchy of congregational ministry that had been formulated solely in my mind, youth group leader was admittedly third from the bottom on my list, only slightly above children's RE teacher and serving on the finance committee. No offense to children's RE teachers or finance committee members. Many of my colleagues in seminary were all about children's and youth ministry, so much so that they had already declared upon arriving at seminary that this was the type of ministry that they were looking to pursue. It's not that I was against leading the youth group. I honestly did not mind. I simply did not see it as me. It was not something that I was enthusiastically called to like my fellow seminarians, and honestly, at the time, I did not understand what all the hype was. But as the intern, I was eager to learn, so I decided to open my mind and approach the unknown the way that I always do, by diving in head first and figuring out all the rest later after the dust had cleared. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to my interactions and encounters with my first youth group. Thankfully, it was a small group. There were 6 youth at the most, 4 of whom were the minister's kids, who I got along with pretty well anyway. Still, I had never taught RE before, and I was painfully aware of the fact that me as a UU was now responsible for teaching Sunday school at a mainstream Christian church. Even though I had grown up in the Anglican church, we did not have Sunday school. The only religious education that I had ever been exposed to was catechism instruction in preparation for confirmation and vacation Bible school. I was definitely certain I was not about to do or model either one of those. So I reached out to the minister for any kind of guidance, or at least to be pointed in the right direction. The response that he gave me is a statement that has stuck with me ever since, and one which started my conversion to the importance of youth religious education. He said, and I quote, "Nobody has done anything with the youth group in a very long time. Just find something to do with them." Ever since I was young, I had been one of those weird kids that was always excited to go to church. Regardless of the fact that this was a clear sign that I was going to be a minister later in life, I always looked forward to the service and the minister's message, whether or not I was interested or bored by it, and to meeting and socializing with other people at coffee hour afterwards. I could not imagine the feeling of waking up on a Sunday morning, getting dressed up, and going to church only to be relegated to a classroom and ignored, no matter how many comfortable couches and ping pong tables had been put in there. I had also been a teenager before. I knew that no matter how much you may want to be left alone, listening to music and playing games on your phone, the feelings of loneliness and isolation only intensify. It was in that moment and in that statement that I knew exactly what I was going to do with the youth group. I marched back into the youth room and sat my youth group down on the extremely comfortable couches, and I had a conversation with them. I told them that as many ideas as I may have about what we should do in youth group, this was their space and their time to get to be themselves. Whatever it was they wanted to do and what they wanted to talk about was welcome. Nothing was off the table. Less than a week after we had that conversation, a 19-year-old with a semi-automatic rifle walked into Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and killed 17 people and wounded 17 others. It was one of the deadliest school shootings in US history. For days afterward, the kids in my youth group, who were now connected through social media in a way that my generation had not been, told me about being subjected to a 24-hour media onslaught that relived every single moment and emotion of the ordeal. And this was not coming from mainstream news media. This was coming from the reposted and retweeted accounts of youth at Stoneman Douglas High School who had experienced it and lived through it, many of whom were the same age and just like those in my youth group. My youth group was angry. They were frustrated that nothing was being done and that no one in power seemed to be doing anything to make sure that this did not happen again. They saw how the adults that they were supposed to be looking up to were quick to label them as kids who don't know better or understand how the world works when they shared their truth and their fears. They told me all about the March for Our Lives that followed, how they joined with their friends and other students in walking out of class and joining marches and protests in their area. What I learned from my youth group is that they were a generation that was no longer going to be content with a moment going by in history and being told that there was nothing that they could do about it. I learned that they were going to use all the resources at their disposal to find a way to try and do something. And if they did not have the resources at their disposal, they were going to find a way to breathe those resources into existence and create them, not only for themselves, but future generations that should not have to experience the same tragedies that they did. As someone who has watched his generation become more numb and resigned to tragedy after tragedy, I found myself learning more from them and taking more inspiration from them than any that I was imparting onto them. I met a similar group of youth when I served as chaplain for the Reed Camp, a summer program for UU high school students held at U-Bar U Camp and Retreat Center in Mountain Home, Texas. I still was not entirely sure of how I felt about being a youth group leader, but inspired and nourished by my experience with the youth group at the welcome table, I was more than happy to dive in and be a part of the camp experience for these youth in any way that I could. The first night that I was there, seated around the campfire for their first all-camp meeting, I watched these UU high schoolers, many of whom were from different congregations in different cities and different states and had never met each other, as their first order of business, put together a complete and comprehensive camp covenant in the span of 20 minutes. And once they had put it together, they lived and modeled it for the entire rest of the week without little need for reminders. The amazing part was not the fact that they managed to do something that I have seen UU adults who have been on a lengthy list of committees take several weeks to do, but the way that they went about doing it. The question that kept going around the circle as the youth invited each other to share their concerns that struck me was, would having this in writing in the covenant be what you need to feel safe? It did not matter that not everyone in the circle knew each other. By virtue of the fact that they were there and that they were present, there was no doubt in the minds of any of the youth that each of them was important and each one of them deserved to be cared for. It was incredible to see how completely authentic and organic it was. And I could not help but thinking of how desperately these youth needed to go back to their home congregations and teach the adults a thing or two about covenant and collegiality. I've spent the past 3 years serving as co-facilitator for the young adults group at the congregation that I was last a part of. Being a UU young adult is one of the most uncomfortable liminal spaces to occupy. After the very structured and personalized experience of going through UU religious education, everything leads up to the bridging ceremony, an event that celebrates the completion of one's journey through religious education and their transition to being a young adult. The problem is that after the bridging ceremony, which is often a wonderful, tear-filled experience for many youth, there is nothing that happens. For most congregations that I have been a part of, one of two things usually happens. The youth are expected to muster up their own initiative and join various committees and groups within the congregation, or the congregation is resigned to the fact that the youth are going off to college in a different city or state and will likely never be seen again until they move back with their new family to settle down and have children of their own. The reality is that UU young adults are left somewhere in the middle, too old to be part of RE and not able to invest themselves into the congregation as they would like because they're in the middle of juggling too much in the way of life, going to school full or part-time, working a full-time job or enough part-time jobs to pay rent and other bills, dating and forming relationships, all while trying to socialize and have some sort of life to keep from being completely overwhelmed. For those congregations that do have a youth group, or a young adults group rather, they're often unsure of where these young adults fit into the mission and vision of the church. Are they part of children's RE? Are they adult RE? Are they a covenant group or small group ministry? Also, the definition of young adult in the UU world encompasses an age range from 18 to 35 years of age. As someone who is set to turn at 35 this year, I can tell you that there is a lot of life, a lot of growth, and a lot of change that happened when I was 18 to now, much more that can be tackled in the span of a young adult group that meets for an hour once a week at the church, if we are even given that. What ends up happening is that, left to their own devices with no mentorship or guidance, many UU young adults struggle to form lasting and meaningful young adult groups, and they often disband and become the self-fulfilling prophecy that the congregation had all along, the ones who move away and do not come back. What they do not see is the fact that many UU young adults who have spent memorable and formative years in UU youth programs end up losing the community that they have been a part of and a connection to the faith tradition that once formed such an integral part of their lives. As author Kate Tweedy Urslev writes in her book, Full Circle, 15 Ways to Grow Lifelong UUs, quote, "It is worth staying in touch. Our UU young adults and other young people who are searching for a spiritual home like ours need us." This reality rings even more true than now in a time of pandemic, when we are more isolated than ever before. The UUA has, in recent years, begun to see the value and the importance of young adult leadership development, offering a youth and young adult office as part of the UUA's ministries and faith development, with specific focuses on emerging young leaders and college and university campus ministry. But if what I have to say holds any weight, I would say that the easiest way to develop and support UU young adults in the congregation can best be achieved by a simple paradigm shift. Youth and young adult ministry must be a necessary part of the focus of any lifespan religious education program. I will say it again. Youth and young adult ministry must be a necessary part of the focus of any lifespan religious education program. Youth and young adults are the future generations of leadership and development for any and all congregations, and they are the ones who will handle carrying the mission and vision of the church forward. They're also the ones, by virtue of the fact that their generation is living through the current events of the day, who will hold the church accountable for how it responds to social justice causes that are important in the world today. They're the ones who, by virtue of the fact that they are living and working in the community outside of the church walls, will continue to develop and improve the ways that the church continues to support the community it is a part of and partners with those community organizations to make it even better. Most importantly, they're the ones who have a perspective that deserves to be heard and valued. And they also have a lot to say. It is time for us to do the work of sitting down and listening for a change. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Thank you all so much.
In this unusual time, when we cannot be together as we are accustomed, the work to fulfill the mission of our church continues. Our staff works harder than ever to support our connections as a community. Our efforts to create justice in the wider community continue despite the impediments caused by social distancing. The need for us to fund these efforts is even more important than ever. So, please go to firstunitarianprov.org and click on the Give menu, then select Give to First Unitarian. On the next page, click on the button that says Give to First U. As always, thank you for all that you give, all that you do, and all that you are. Please let me share some invitations with you this morning. First off, we are excited and proud to say that First U will host a vaccination clinic this week on Wednesday, June 2nd, from 2 to 3:30 p.m. This will offer the opportunity to receive the Pfizer vaccine, and the next dose will be given on June 23rd. So it's important to be available on both of those dates. This is part of an effort to make vaccinations available to people of color and the underserved communities in our town, but all are welcome. Appointments can be made on the Rhode Island COVID portal, and walk-ins are also invited. Please share the information with anyone you know who might need a vaccine. Next, those who want to preview the budget for the church for the 21-22 year can join Treasurer Roberta Grosh on Wednesday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. on Zoom. This is a great chance to ask questions about the budget process and our finances for the next year. You must register with Nancy in the church office to get the Zoom invitation, which you can follow the link in Friday's email or call the office on Tuesday. Finally, the church's annual meeting is set for Sunday, June 13th, immediately after worship on Zoom. We will vote on the proposed budget for next year and the proposed slate of officers. We will not publish the Zoom link, so you must pre-register in order to receive that link and to get the materials as well. Please follow the link in Friday's email or call Nancy in the office. Thanks. Have a great week.
Blessed is the dark in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light.
We carry the flame of peace, love, and hope until we meet again.